It's the sounds of Indecent Obsession with Kiss Me. This song is so old. Can you believe it? But still a banger. Really, really great tune. As I've been threatening the entire morning, we've got a new feature that starts on a Tuesday. This is such a fun thing to do. Charmaine Soobramoney, who has a corporate background that's all-star, we have discussed for the longest time, she's been doing it in a capacity as a businesswoman, as a professional. It's been mentoring, developing businesses, individuals, organizations, institutions for just the longest time. And I reached out to her and I said, Charmaine, you've got such a wealth of experience. And I think our community at 919 can benefit from just a weekly interaction with your infectious optimism, your well-learned approach, and you can share some of your insights. So, Charmaine, good morning. And now we are here on a weekly feature called the Wealth Zen. And it's going to be a great 20-minute conversation every Tuesday, hopefully helping you to reset, engage with your emotions, but create wealth. Hey, Charmaine.
Hey, Sam. Thank you for having me. And thank you to 919 for actually allowing me to share some wisdom and engage with an amazing guy.
Thanks. You're on the right path. You've started the right way. Wealth. When we think of wealth, and look, we're going to unpack it on a weekly basis, different issues, different aspects. We'll react to what's happening in our environment, whether it's topical or not. But when we think of wealth, we think of wealth in a very kind of linear way. We sometimes think of wealth as either it's financial or it's health, but it's so many different things.
Wealth to me is actually all-encompassing. I mean, most of us focus on just money, but money, just running after money, just creates added stress. And I'd love an opportunity to to unpack the acronym wealth and what it actually means for me.
Do.
Thank you. Wealth, it starts with wisdom, right? The W is for wisdom. And it's about just learning, growing, reflecting on the day before, and how can I be better? Because with wisdom and knowledge, you'd be able to create a better life for yourself. And when you're happy, Sam, everybody around you can actually benefit from that energy.
Yeah.
The E actually is for equity. And not equity in terms of the financial instrument. We'll unpack that at a later stage. But equity in terms of fairness. How fair are you to yourself? And how fair are you to others? Often, we are kinder to other people than we are to ourselves.
Often.
And when we are not kind to ourselves, we just beat ourselves unnecessarily. Mm-hmm. And we prevent ourselves from living that wealthy life, right? And A, Sam, A is for assets. And assets create wealth. But what we fail to realize is we are our primary asset. We create magic or we don't. Mm. And when we do look after ourselves mentally, physically, holistically, take care of ourselves first. Love ourselves. And love ourselves, Sam, I know we're in the month of love.
It's self-love.
It's not feeling. It's about what do we do to nurture ourselves. Because when we love ourselves, it's an action. And when we love ourselves, we can love others more, right? And the world needs more love.
Yeah.
Okay?
I agree.
My L is for liability and love. I've touched on love. Liability is, if I'm going to touch on net worth.
Okay.
It's assets minus liability gives you your net worth. That's in the financial world. But asset minus liability is also equal to your net worth. And your net worth is so flippin' important, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have the wrong people around you, what do? They reduce your net worth.
Yeah.
So it's not about how many people you have in your lives. It's about how many people you surround yourself that grows you every day to be able to create that wealthy life.
I love that.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah, we really got to think about who we surround ourselves with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and who we spending our weekends with every weekend. Yeah.
Who we spend life with.
Yeah.
Because those people either make you or grow you.
Oh, yeah.
And boundaries, and we need to touch on that at some stage, Sam.
Yeah, we will.
So we spoke about love and liability, and it's about time. This moment we have here, it's never coming back.
Yeah.
So use your time intentionally, whether it's to grow yourself, whether it's about creating happiness and impact in people's lives. Because the world and I love that the fact that you invited me on this show and not another show, because you're all about positivity, aren't you?
I try and be.
It is all about positivity. It's about hope. It's about inspiration.
Yeah, little bits, small doses.
And we have to. And it is possible to create a wealthy lifestyle with very, very little. And I like the idea of actually sharing this on a weekly basis with ourselves, and all of us can actually learn.
Before you go to the H, I just want to, something that jumped at me as you talked about time. It somehow feels to me it's the one thing that we do not measure, take stock of, because we think it's in abundance. And unfortunately, it's that almost insidious character in the background. It's always taking away from us, but we're not aware of it in the way we should be.
When we are younger, it feels like we have like an abundance of time, right? And yes, we make mistakes, we learn, we try whatever. As we get older, and I actually reflect on my parents, actually almost in the 80s, and my in-law, it's about how many Christmases we have left. It's about how many whatever. So don't waste time, because if you utilize it, especially when you're young, effectively, trust me, I'll show you how you can be wealthy. I'll show you how you can be a millionaire. Use your time effectively.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you talk about how many Christmases we have left. Warren Buffett famously looks at the remainder of his time in terms of how many meetings he has left.
Absolutely.
How much. And so he's very, very careful about granting meetings and interviews and stuff like that, because he only has so much time left. Yeah.
And as soon as you start treating yourself as an asset, Sam, you are intentional as to where you put your energy. And you also, because of your reflections, you get a better understanding as to who you are and what is it that you want to pour into the world.
Yeah.
So you tend to say no more, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and most of us battle to do so.
Yeah. H.
H is for health and happiness. If you don't have health, Sam, and if you don't look after yourself, and to the listeners out there, no amount of money is going to save you.
Yeah.
You know what? So carve out time. I mean, all of those things that are spelled out is interconnected, right?
Yeah.
And happiness, it's a flippin' inside job. It's not about the car you drive. It's not about the house you live in. It's not about the external validations as to how many people liked my post today or not. So once we get into understanding who we are, that wealth journey becomes like easy.
And it's so interesting that we go through these transitions, right? At some point, people equated, and look, there's growth. I mean, you might start off by saying, I want a really great job, I want a big house, I want a big salary, I want to drive the nice car, wear the nice clothes. And look, some people never leave that. Some people are chained to their status, right?
Sure.
And that's the chase that they'll always have. But I think the thing of maturing and being able to be reflective, and as you talked about, wisdom and being aware of where you are at the moment, is that you do start realizing that none of those assets that you build, none of the bank accounts that you're trying to build, none of the clothes that you are so obsessed about, the stuff that causes you unhappiness, matters if you're sick, if you're on your deathbed, or if you pass on. You can't take it with you. I know we say it all the time, but you can't.
Absolutely, Sam. You can't. The reality is you actually can't. And you know what? Chasing stuff was never something, because of my early stages, things that actually happened to me. I was never chasing external factors.
Okay.
I still live in the same house that I bought in 1999.
Wow.
My best boyfriend is actually Warren Buffett. Everybody else is secondary.
and he famously still lives to this day in the house that he bought in the 70s.
Absolutely.
He eats at the same restaurant, kind of has the same meal. He has a firm belief that you can only live in one home at a time. And this is a man that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And he has a very simple philosophy on life. And I think that we often get caught up in the kind of social media stuff. But even Elon doesn't have a home. He has a very simplistic life. I mean, Jeff Bezos is a little bit more complicated, but also has one home. And so you'll see the more these people acquire, the more kind of they strive for simplicity.
And absolutely. And the reality is, once you know yourself and you're clear on where you're going, you're not swayed by external factors. You have no desire to please anybody else but yourself and the people that really matter to you. And once we get to, and we can get to that stage, it's a matter of being intentional. It's a matter of utilizing your resources properly and being willing to learn, because people often go, it's too hard, it takes too long. Nothing worthwhile happens overnight.
Yeah. And I was listening to, don't ask me why, but I was listening to Andrew Tate this morning. The world's famous misogynist. I was listening to him this morning, and he was, even a messenger. It's only in the movie 300 where Leonidas tells the messenger, before he kicks him down this pit of eternity, that in Sparta the messenger is responsible for the message. But I was listening to Andrew Tate this morning, not looking at the messenger, but trying to listen to the message. And he was saying that good habits are hard at the beginning, but they are important. You have to go through the pain points to develop good habits. And he was saying that if you go to the gym every day, you will see results. I mean, you might, obviously, if you have the understanding and the knowledge, you'll have better results. But if you go to the gym every day, you are forming a healthy habit. And so those are the things that we need to get to. Stop thinking of a good habit as hard. And even if you just start walking made a decision that if you live in a complex, I'm walking in the complex every day. It doesn't have to be for 5 hours, 10 hours. It's just you getting up and walking. It is those habits that start building, and incrementally, those small things add up to become big things.
Powerful statement, Sam. And it's so important that you actually brought that point into this room. It's micro steps.
Micro steps.
It is. Just doing the little things, and it accumulates. Just like brushing your teeth.
Yeah. Well, some of us don't. Some of us don't.
I know you do.
Some of us believe it's got to be natural. But it's the micro steps, and often, and here's the thing. I think what we're doing here on a Tuesday is not stuff that people are not going. They haven't heard it before. In actual fact, a lot of it they do know. I mean, the acronym was really, really smart in terms of wisdom, equity, asset, love, liability, time, health, and happiness. I think that's really, really great. But a lot of the kind of wisdom, the life lessons you've learned, both personal, professional, at boardroom level, building teams, are the things that's going to add value to our lives. But let's be honest, it's not stuff they haven't heard before. For those that watch podcasts, they listen to the Mel Robbins, they listen to the Simon Sinek's, they engage with the Lewis Howes of the world, and so the list goes on. I mean, but yet we don't do it.
I think when people are ready, they will take the information shared and utilize it to their benefit. You know, when I was younger, Sam, I wanted to flip and change the world, and therefore I studied law. And as I got older, I realized I can't change the world. I can have an influence in a community, but who I can change is myself, as to how I respond to certain situations and how I show up. So if all of us elect to change ourselves and be better human beings and have an impact in ourselves, community, and the world, we will have that ripple effect. Right? So that's the point I'm making. There must be willingness and the desire to create that. You know, most people, Sam, chase money. When you chase money, you're continuously stressed. When you chase the freedom that comes from living a wealthy lifestyle, that is more appealing, actually. Because it's more than just one focus.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you say that, because even Patrick Bet-David in his conversation talks about what freedom means as opposed to what chasing money is. There's a young man who does this series called The School of Hard Knocks or Hard Life. It's a series where he walks up to incredibly wealthy people and he talks to them about what were their challenges, what was the most money they've ever made. And he's trying to kind of get young people to understand that it's in all our power to affect change.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not a only they can do it. It's all of us can do it. All of us have the ability right now. Even if we're driving next to our partner, we can choose how to respond to a situation that's triggering. We can identify our triggers. We can make note of what those triggers are and then actively start working on changing them. And it doesn't have to be this monumental, I'm going to a Buddhist retreat for 4 weeks to learn how to center myself. But it's the little things that we can do.
You know, if Sam, that's a great point that you've made. And if we really, really, really need peace in life, if that's what's
You've got to
driving,
be it.
you have to make those changes to be able to.
But you've got to be the peace.
You have to be the peace.
You have to be the peace.
You have. It's yeah. It is. And yeah. It's an episode for another 20 minutes.
We'll talk about it. But I mean, you've got to be the peace. It's got to be willingness. And then the other thing that I've learned in my longish life is that
longish, like how many years?
Longish. Well, you know, I'm seeing the 5-0. It's on the horizon, right? But I think that unfortunately, a tradesman, there are their tools. The more tools you have access to, and the better the tools are, the easier the job becomes. And I think it's a fallacy, it's a misnomer to believe that one can like the seahorse whose male fall pregnant. I think one has to recognize that you need tools in order to live a better life.
Absolutely.
And I think even if you just switch onto this, I'm not advocating that you listen to this. I mean, you might be at odds with everything we're saying between 10 past 10 and half past 10. But you need tools. And whether that tools is a pastor in the church, a big brother, somebody, you need tools in order to become better.
It is. Why do we have coaches in the world from a sports perspective?
Yeah. I mean, Usain Bolt could just say, well, I'm the fastest, I don't need a coach.
Absolutely.
You know, the Springboks drinkers who just defended against Sean Strickland can say, well, you know, and it's so interesting that you mentioned that. Who said it the other day? Was it Myron Golden who talked about why successful people all think they need coaches and non-successful people believe they don't. Which is if you study the habits of successful people, which is actually a book, you'll realize that all successful people have a coach, have a mentor, have a community of people that they can rely on to be able to elevate themselves to the next level.
Because what they do is they see themselves from a window of being an asset. So if you see yourself as an asset, what do? You invest more in yourself. You invest in terms of the people you surround yourself, getting a coach to be better, to be able to, when you don't value yourself enough, for whatever reason, it could be resources or
could
whatever.
Be history,
it could be history
background,
or trauma.
it could be immediate family members.
Absolutely.
You know, how you see yourself, you know, self-projection stuff.
And the wealth journey actually helps people just get into, if they're willing and there's desire, to get out of that.
Yeah.
And there's been enough statistics as well as personal cases that I can actually share where people have been able to get out of that mindset that I'm not good enough and have acquired and living a wealthy life.
So this is what we're going to do every Tuesdays. We're going to unpack some of these big ideas or some of the challenges. It might not be that big in your life. It might be something that is still triggering. Charmaine Soobramoney is going to be joining us every Tuesdays. Charmaine, as we wrap up, what is the big thing that we need to experience, think about, live this week until next week's session?
I think it's about just wake up every morning and just reflect on the day that has been. What made you happy? What made you sad? What is your triggers? And what that will do is create a sense of awareness. And when you have information...
And there's power.
And when you have information, it can actually help. You have enough information to shape your life and take little actions, the micro steps you were talking about, to be better.
Yeah, I love it. Awareness, I believe awareness is really a start of almost all solves for problems. If you're just aware of what you did, if you understand the impact you have on someone else, I think that awareness is absolutely amazing. Ma'am, it was such a privilege chatting to you. I look forward to the Wealth Zen next week. I get to learn. We've made an agreement, myself and our listeners, that we're going to learn together. And
including myself?
Yes, including you now. You've joined this community. We're going to learn together. This might be a cup of tea, might not be a cup of tea. Go and make a cup of tea in this 20 minutes if you don't like it. But the idea is that we can all do better, and we must do better.
Absolutely, Sam. And if I may,
yes,
this is the week of love and light to everybody. And thank you for having me.
Are you ready to amplify your sound experience?